Norman Liss, and the name of the program is The Way to Go. I invite you to join me each week at this time as we explore places to go and things to do. Today we're going to explore a backstage look at the theater. We're going behind the scenes. We're taping this show before the opening of a new show at the Westchester Broadway Theater. The program is Grand Hotel. And we have with us today two of the people who are very, very strongly involved with the show. Rob Donahoe, who plays one of the leading roles, and George Puello, who is associate producer and is also the set designer. So let's take a look behind the scenes. And the real question is, does it help to know what's going on behind the scenes in your appreciation of what's going on stage?
Are you talking about from the actor's standpoint or from the audience standpoint?
Both.
Well, I can only speak as an actor most of the time. Knowing what's going on behind the scenes, I have quite a background in technical theater myself, as well as acting. I think every actor should have a strong background in a little bit of everything. So I find myself very aware of what's going on, and sometimes a little too much for my own good. I think it's easier to just concentrate on what you're doing on stage if you're not worrying about, well, is that set piece really working properly, or is that light focused right? So I think it can be a hindrance to an actor to be too aware of what's going on backstage. Personally, I enjoy it. I want to find out how the theater works, where everything is, what's working, what's not working. I just find it fascinating myself.
So from an actor's viewpoint, part of the fun is knowing what's going on and knowing what is creating the illusion, so to speak.
Sure. That's part of the magic of joining them.
You feel the same way, George?
You know, it's interesting. Anytime I'm asked this question, I can't help but think of an expression that particularly amateur theater has called the opening night miracle. Somehow it all comes together on opening night. Well, I always like to disillusion them, because what happens is a production will go up a certain degree on opening night because of the adrenaline and everything else.
Meaning?
Meaning, in other words, if it's at 90%, it'll go to 92 or 93, but it'll never go from 30 to 90. It'll go from 30 to 32. And I think what happens in terms of backstage, the opening night is really the culmination of all of this preparation work that's gone on. I think it would be fascinating for an audience person to see it from step one, when you initially just pick the show and you say to yourself, is the show going to sell? Number one, and then you get into developing the thought and into the production meetings. At the theater, we have two wonderful producers, Bill Stutler and Bob Funking, and they're very, very well organized in terms of making sure that the director has everything that he or she requires for the production. And as such, we have production meetings every week, about, I would say, starting approximately a month and a half to 2 months before.
Where does it all start? First, the decision has to be made what the show is going to be.
Right.
And then what happens? You talk about production meetings.
And then I guess the next step would be choosing the production team, the artistic team, the director, the choreographer, the designers, the lighting designers. We're very fortunate at the theater in that we have a lot of these individuals in residence. The two directors, the co-directors, I should say, for this production are Nikki Harris and Ken Tosti, who were Tommy Toon's assistants on Broadway. And they were specifically hired because we wanted to capture his concept of the piece.
So Grand Hotel is widely acclaimed as a Tommy Toon show.
Right.
And there's something that he provided to the show.
Right.
By having the directors coming out of the Tommy Toon school, of course, a lot of that will be captured in there.
Mm-hmm. And just quite incidentally, they just finished with Tommy Toon remounting this production for a Japanese theater company. I wasn't aware how popular American theater is in Japan. Apparently, it's very, very popular in English.
That is interesting.
Yes.
That the language is not a barrier to enjoying the show. But that's another subject, which I'm going to do on this program in a few weeks. So what happens from this point on? So the directors, the artistic, the technical people are either on staff or just for this show. And then what happens? The casting process
The
starts?
casting process starts, and maybe Rob could fill us in a little more on that.
Yeah.
Now that's interesting, Rob, because you, of course, have performed at the Westchester Broadway
Yes.
Theater before. You were in Sugar.
Last summer, right.
Yeah, you did the role that Joey Brown did in the film.
Sir Osgood
right?
Fielding, yes.
And in this show, you're doing the role that Michael Jeter,
Michael Jeter, right.
who
Yes.
who has gone on to fame on television.
I can't tell
right?
you how intimidating that can be, actually.
But I've of course saw Grand Hotel when it was on Broadway, and it's the roles are so completely different. Is that something you specialize in, being different?
Yes. I've prided myself on being a versatile actor, without trying to sound too boastful. I started out young as a character man, playing older parts in high school and playing the old man in the plays and things like that. And it just sort of stuck with me through the years. I was blessed or cursed with a face with a lot of character to it, which can be hurtful for film and television, but it's great for stage, and it's made me much more versatile and able to play a wide range of characters, and it keeps me working a lot more as a result. As far as playing this particular role, from the moment it opened on Broadway, I had friends that saw it before I did, and they were coming up to me saying, "Rob, this is a perfect role for you." So I thought, okay, I have to see this show, and I went and saw it and watched specifically Michael Jeter performing, and I fell in love with the character immediately. It was something I could relate to. I understood where he was coming from, where he was going. I loved it. And I went back and saw the show twice more after that for various reasons. The entire production I loved, but Michael Jeter was particularly wonderful.
So in the process of being cast to do it in this show, since the producers already knew you and you had worked successfully for them in Sugar, so was it automatic or did?
Well, no, my first show with them was Sugar, so that was all they really knew of me, was that particular character. So I wasn't going to take any chances on this one. As soon as I found out they were doing Grand Hotel, I called the producers and said I would be interested in being seen for this part, so immediately putting the idea in their heads to be considering me for it. This was months ago. And I was about to go out of town to do another show for 3 months, so I set up an audition appointment with them before I left, told them I would fly back for the audition if they wanted to see me. In the meantime, I got the music, I got the tape, I got the script, I worked on it. I worked with an accompanist in Ohio while I was there. I got up and performed the song in a cabaret so that I would feel comfortable doing it in front of people. So it didn't just happen. It's something I wanted, and I went after it, and thank God they liked my work enough the last time to consider me for it, because physically I'm very different from Michael Jeter. That was the one thing I worried about. He was very short and thin. I'm sort of average height and not as thin as I would like to be, so but I understand where the character's coming from, and I really...
Now, again, I have seen the show, and I'm sure many people have, but there's a very strong character, and there's a surprise, which we don't want to give away, which is connected with it. But it seems to me that you have to have multi-talent in order to play that role. It's a heavy dramatic role.
Right.
There's singing, there's dancing, and this whole show, it requires a great deal of that.
Well, I think that's why my friends, when they first saw it, they realized I had the right background for the part. I started as a serious actor in Los Angeles and in Europe for years before I came to New York.
What's a serious actor?
Well, serious... Some people would take me to counts on this. I did straight plays as opposed to musicals for years. And when I came to New York, the first thing I got cast in was a musical, and it sort of snowballed from there. So I've been doing mostly musicals here because that's what is cast quite a bit in New York City, and that's where most of the work is. But I do approach a musical from an actor's standpoint rather than from a singer's standpoint. A lot of people are singers first, and they're scared to death of acting, and they'll rely on their voices to carry them through. I'm an actor first, who's scared to death to sing sometimes, but I know that my voice will carry through what I need to do. And I move well. I'm not really a dancer, but I can dance when I have to, and I can make things work for me. So
I think when people see the show, they'll understand what you're saying there without revealing.
Well, Michael
too
Jeter
much.
was not a singer or a dancer either when he got this part, and he won the Tony Award for it. So that'll tell you something right there. It's an actor's role.
Yeah. So staying with this behind-the-scenes approach to this show, The set is very, very important in it, and the set that you have designed for it, and we have a model of it here, and we can show it while you're talking about it. What did it require? It retains, as far as I can see, the character of what the original set. Who did the set on Broadway?
Tony Walton was
right.
and it was based on the place where they rehearsed the musical and workshop, which had been the ballroom of a hotel, an old hotel, and so Tommy Tune kind of liked that look, and that's what really inspired the original set, and also it had a great deal of influence in this one. As I said, the co-directors were both involved with the original production. So as a set designer, even though I wear other hats at the theater, when I am designing for a director, I try to take off all my other hats and I put on specifically a designer's hat and try to give the director whatever he or she requires. Sometimes it goes against my initial concept of the musical, but I'm not the director, so.
Director is very important.
Very important.
In films, the director, every film is a product of the director and perhaps the editor, but the director makes all the decisions. Right. Is the same thing true in live theater?
I would say that the answer is yes, in that ultimately it's on the shoulders of the director what the look of the thing is going to be, not necessarily each specific thing, but I know that in production meetings we discuss not necessarily what the buttons are going to be on a costume, but the director does want to have an input as to what the costumes are going to look, the palette, the color palette, the set. And I was given a lot of leeway in terms of the specific decorations and the look of it, but in terms of the layout, it was really what the directors wanted.
This show has a lot of movement. There was certainly a lot of publicity when it first opened about the chairs and the use of chairs and how it forms different configurations. And of course, I guess chairs are an important part of what you'll be doing now.
30 chairs to be exact.
Actually, 30 chairs.
30 to be exact, yes.
It's amazing what can be done with. Although the overall set is there, it's a minimal set, I suppose.
Right. The thought behind this, as Tommy Tune conceived the production, was that the audience should see the set in its entirety from the opening moment to the end. So there are really no surprises. All of the surprises take place within the initial setting. Right. In the configuration of the chairs, etc.
And the placement of the orchestra is unusual.
Right. For this production, it'll be it'll actually play. There'll be an integral part of the production in that they're supposed to be the orchestra that plays at this hotel, at the Grand Hotel, and they will be on the second level, and the conductor will be on one of the balconies conducting.
So they're in view and on the stage at all times, as opposed to in the pit where they are.
Right, or hidden somewhere. Right.
Is this the first time that this has been done at the Westchester Broadway Theater?
Actually, we, in anticipation of doing Grand Hotel for Phantom, we moved the orchestra to there. So this new orchestra loft, if we want to call it that, was used for the first time in Phantom.
Oh, it was. It was not down in the pit.
No, because we had hydraulics in Phantom, so we took the orchestra out of there. And we decided that since we were going to do Grand Hotel, we should kill two birds with one stone. So we put them up there, and it worked fine.
You had them on stage for Anna Get Your Gun, too.
Right. I as opposed to Olaf, but they were to one side and Anna Get Your Gun, right.
Are there any hydraulics being used in this production?
No.
This is a fairly immovable set. It's solid. And
no Phantom of the Hotel, right?
No Phantom of the Hotel. Although there may be one lurking in the shadows somewhere.
I saw, just as a sidebar here, I saw Bob Cuccioli, who played the Phantom, do a reading of a musical version of Beauty and the Beast.
Right.
And I said to him afterwards that I thought he played it like the Phantom of the Castle. I guess that will follow him wherever he goes from now
That can be a
on.
real curse. Getting connected with Superman.
Of course, he's an actor too,
Sure.
who sings,
With a beautiful voice,
with a
yeah.
beautiful voice, and we discussed that on this program. That acting is very, very, and he started as an actor too. Yeah. So what happens in the process now? At this point in time, while we're talking, you haven't gone into rehearsal,
No.
although you have the script and you've been
Right.
working on the music. And so what happens when you get together for the first time? This is a dramatic show, a very entertaining dramatic show with strong characters, with strong music, and a lot of strong visuals in it. So what happens at that rehearsal? Everybody's in jeans and shorts?
Probably, yeah. It's interesting. That really varies a lot from theater to theater and production to production. It depends a lot on how much of a rehearsal period you're going to have. I think if we had a longer rehearsal period for this show, we would probably start with a reading of the script just so everyone got a chance to know each other, get an overview of how it's going to be played, and sort of see each other working a little bit. But when you have a short rehearsal span, usually you jump right in, working on choreography, working on music, primarily. Usually the choreography and music usually come first. The book scenes normally get pushed till the end to be staged.
So actually, you're walking through it, not on the set, because something else is playing at the theater at the time.
Right.
So you're actually walking through the movements almost from the very
We'll be
beginning.
in a rehearsal studio with the floor taped out to show us where everything will be on the actual stage eventually. And we have what we call a blocking rehearsal, where the director says, all right, you come from stage left, you walk across, you stop, stand there, talk, turn up stage. That's called blocking. You just write all this out. It's very laborious and tedious sometimes, but you just get the basic movements down so that from there you can start creating the character, knowing where you have to be and then working from that standpoint.
So it is not good for a production to have people do variations of that, is there?
No, you pretty much have to stick with your blocking once it's set. I mean, there's room to play around with it to make it work for whoever's doing it, but when you have a short period of time, and also since these people have been with the show for quite some time, Nikki and Ken, they'll be staging it pretty much the way it was staged on Broadway, except that this is a thrust stage as opposed to proscenium.
Right.
And I talked with Nikki on the phone last week. She said, "What am I going to do with all these chairs?" So she's having to work things out too.
And will they be working the aisles as they normally do at
I don't know
at
if they
the
will
theater?
on this one.
I'm not quite sure. I know that they will be making entrances from the downstage access ramps, which go down into the
Right.
what used to be the orchestra pit. But a lot of times, some of the final things are left when they are in the physical space. When you say, well, this looks good, but maybe just seeing the physical space, you get a different idea. This being a thrust, now this is a very large stage. Actually,
Explain a thrust to the people who may not know what it is.
this would be called a three-quarter thrust, in that the people sit on three sides, and the stage juts out approximately 20 feet into the audience, and it's 27 feet wide. Square footage wise, it's probably just as big as a Broadway stage. It's just apportioned differently, right?
Different shaping.
Right, different shaping.
Now, of course, we assume that most people who are seeing this program know what the Westchester Broadway Theater is, and of course it is a dinner theater, but it's a dinner theater with a difference. It's certainly been in existence for a long time in its previous home and where it is now, and very successful, doing very successful productions.
One of the things that I think we can attribute our current success has been to the decision of moving from the smaller space to this new space, which was built as a theater and to our specs and our requirements. And we would never have been able to do Phantom, or let's put it this way, we would not have been able to do it justice in the old theater.
Yes.
Whereas with the new facility, we have a lot of state-of-the-art equipment, hydraulics, we have tracks, we can fly certain things that we could not do in the other.
Fly, I mean bringing in
bringing in things from the grid, right?
From above.
So
And Grand Hotel is very entertaining, but it's also very serious. The subject is very serious, and the question here is do people want serious musicals? Certainly Phantom, with its success, extended run, the acclaim, the fact that a recording was made that's now available, all the factors and indicate that people do want serious musicals as opposed to frothy.
Well, I'll let Rob answer that, but I've just put in a thing. I think that rather than differentiate between serious and frothy, I think it's what touches the heart. I think that's more important, and I think that Phantom did just that. It touched the heart.
It certainly did.
Because the subject matter, and it was such a wonderful script. Arthur Coppin and Maury Yeston's score was just magnificent also. So hopefully we'll have the same success with this. What do you think?
Well, I was going to say, I think we're fortunate being up here in Elmsford and Westchester. We're close enough to New York where you have an educated theater audience.
Yeah.
They're willing to accept something a little out of the norm of what they're used to seeing. I just came from working in Akron, Ohio at the Carousel Dinner Theater, which is one of the largest in the country. And I told them I was going to be doing Grand Hotel, and they said, well, we'll never be able to do that here because our audience would not accept it. They want to see things they know the music from, they've heard before, they want to be entertained, they want it light. I don't know whether this is the producer's viewpoint of their audience, but from a marketing standpoint, they're afraid that it wouldn't sell tickets. Mm-hmm. So it's interesting. I think you have a much more sophisticated audience up here than you would in the Midwest.
But Grand Hotel is very entertaining. It's
is.
entertaining because of all of the factors that work together with that story, and I think that's a key to it. If it was just heavy music, it would certainly not fit into it.
It's an uplifting story to some extent as well, especially the character I'm playing. I find him quite inspiring.
Yes.
But it's not a well-known show. People in this area know that it was on Broadway. They know that it won several Tony Awards, so it will sell tickets off its reputation. They're not going to come because they've heard the music a lot before. The music is not popular at this point.
But then going back to Phantom, this version of the Phantom that was done here, the music was not well known, and the story certainly. This version is much more dramatic than the one that was done on Broadway. But the music was memorable.
But I must tell you that probably the most frequently asked question at the end of the performance was, where can we get a recording of this? And incidentally, it just came out. RCA just put out the CD of Maury Yeston and Arthur Kopit's version. Just to add a little something to what Rob said about being our proximity to New York, it also works another way positively for us, and that is that a good many performers who would normally not want to go out of town because we are so close to New York, we get a great caliber of performers such as Rob and some of the other wonderful performers we've had at the theater who don't want to, leave the city for too long a period of time. Yeah. So we're very fortunate that way.
This theater has a good reputation among performers in New York. Yes. You tell people you're working here, they'll say, oh, I've heard wonderful things about them. If they haven't been here or seen the show, they've at least heard wonderful things about it. It's got a good reputation for production values and talent. And so it's a real desirable place to work, and it can keep you in town to audition for other things coming up after the show closes and that sort of thing. So it's
before we get much further, I want to make sure that we tell people where they could call to get more information about Grand Hotel. So, George, why don't you say the telephone number?
Our box office number is 592-2222, 2222. Very easy to remember.
592-2222. Right. And we're going to put that up on the screen in the closing credits in case anybody didn't have a pen or pencil handy at the moment.
914 area code, right.
Yes. You both touched a little bit about your own backgrounds. Now, George, you've been very active in this community in so many roles, and I've seen your name around many times. You've been a director. Why don't you tell us a little more about what you've been doing?
Well, I've been very fortunate in that since I got into theater, I've always been able to work in theater. I've never had to, to go outside of theater. And I think the reason I did that is I made a conscious effort when I was very young, and I've been doing this for almost over 30 years now. When I was young, I made a conscious effort to diversify, and so I didn't just remain a dancer. I started off as a dancer, and I realized that there's no such thing as a 45-year-old chorus boy. So I branched out into choreographing and then directing, designing, producing, and so I've been very, very fortunate that way. And also, I had some really fortunate things happen to me along the way, including having been offered the artistic directorship of the old Mayapack Farm Playhouse, where I kind of hung out for 10 years, and so yes, I'm very, very, very fortunate.
And I think it's great for all of us that you've landed here at the dinner theater at the Westchester Broadway Theater.
And actually, I was even when I had the theater in Mayapack, I was doing work for the theater as an independent producer, or also directing and choreographing for the theater and designing.
And Rob, you since you first started playing an old man at the ripe old age of 7.
Basically, yeah. It's strange in a way. I've got a similar background to George in that I've done a lot theater-wise. Technically, I've built sets, I've painted, I've mopped floors, I've washed costumes. But I've always been told, you're going to work a lot in your 40s. People always said, you're a character man, you're going to work a lot when you get older. So it's always kept me thinking, all right, just next year it's going to really kick in. Next year the career's just going to take off. So I've always had a certain degree of success. I've never been famous, but I've worked consistently most of my career. And now I'm reaching an age that the parts are coming that I've been playing since I was in my teens. So there's always that little carrot dangling. You just hang in there a few more years and it's really going to kick in. And I enjoy it so much. I love the stage.
So you're what could be called a character actor? Or
that's the way I've sort of marketed myself, yeah.
I guess marketing is an important part of what you do.
It's like creating a label for a can of soup. You know, this is what I sell, this is what I do, and people need to see what it is that you do, and that's what you push.
The audition process, I've sat in on some auditions. Is it a difficult process to go up before some stony-faced individuals and sing your heart out and they say thank you?
It can be. People that go to job interviews know what it's like to get rejection and how nervous you can get going into a job interview because you can put so much pressure on yourself I have to get this. For auditions, you have to learn to relax a bit because you may go to 10 auditions a week if you're lucky, and you can't put a lot of stock in every one. You sort of do them, say, all right, I've done my best there, and I go on to the next thing. You can't just sit around waiting for that phone to ring because you'll get ulcers. I mean, it's a lot of pressure. And each time a show closes, you're unemployed again. You're back into the process. Right. And it's a skill, I think, learning how to audition. A lot of people don't audition well or may be wonderful performers, or they may perform well and not audition well.
Yes.
So it's something it's a learned process.
Well, one of the things that we've learned is that we've run out of time. And it's really been great talking to both of you today about Grand Hotel. My guests today have been George Puello, who is the set designer and associate producer at the Grand Hotel, and also Rob Donahoe, who will be playing one of the major roles in Grand Hotel at the Westchester Broadway Theater. I'm Norman Liss. The name of the program is The Way to Go, and until next week at this time, enjoy yourself.